More classic rock artists sell their catalogs, a bassist is accused of preying on the underaged, and cancel culture comes to claim Phil Anselmo of Pantera again. All that next on
Shitpost Friday.
Today's video is sponsored by Ada Outdoor. Ada Outdoor was started by two family men with a passion for the outdoors and
free speech on YouTube.
All their pocket knives use durable tool-grade steel and glide easily open with one hand on precision ball bearings.
It's all ball bearings nowadays.
They also feature a deep pocket clip for concealed carry and even come with a storage bag. Check out their website and use the coupon code SPF10 for 10% off your purchase. And remember, when you support my sponsors, you support
free speech on YouTube.
Hey, what's up, bros and hoes? Brad the Guitologist here. A little bit of channel news first up. Our locals.com page has been set up. I promoted it last week on Shitpost Friday, and it's off to a pretty good start. We've got about 30 people who are full members, who are paying subscribers now. But all that kind of happening, in spite of the fact that last week's show was deranked in the algorithm pretty abysmally. We only got 12,500 people to watch that show, which is pretty low for one of those shows. I would expect about twice that would be the norm. Could have been the subject matter that I chose to cover. It could have been the way in which I presented it. I'm not really sure. It could also be just the fact that, there were some things in there that I said that, once again, YouTube does not want to show. So if you want these shows to continue, you have to at least support the channel in some way. Share the videos, follow me over on Locals, become a member over there, a supporting member. It gives you the option to pay like $6 and you can do full commenting and all that kind of stuff and see all kinds of behind the scenes stuff that I'll probably shoot and put over there. I've put a few videos over there already this week, and we're going to start doing some exclusive live streams over there. If you would, just take a minute to at least go check it out. I'll put a link down in the description and in a pinned comment where you can go support me on Locals. Okay, first up, the microphone of the week. This is an Electrovoice ND 357B. So these are neodymium microphones, and I think they are some of the best sounding dynamic microphones that you can get, in my opinion. They made a whole line of these, I think starting back in the late 80s, maybe early 90s. They're still fairly easy to come by, and they're still fairly cheap. They're very light if you hold one in your hand, compared to microphones with regular, like, ceramic magnets. They're also pretty powerful, so they've got a lot of output usually. This one is the 357B. I have another one also from the same series we may check out next week, but let me know how this one sounds down in the comments below. Okay, so on to the first bit of news. We have this, where we see that some classic rock bands, some big classic rock bands, are really beginning to sell out their catalogs. We talked about last week with Neil Young and the way that he had done that and kind of misrepresented the fact that he had already done that on the Howard Stern show. Other artists have done the same in the past. Bob Dylan is another one that springs to mind. There are others as well, lots of others. We see here that Yes is now selling their recorded music catalog to Warner Music Group, and what's being called a historic deal. This only deals with their first 12 studio albums. The sale covers all their stuff from 1969 to 1987, which is pretty much the heyday of the band. It's everything really that would be worth something, I think, to anybody going forward into the future. Would be the first part of the band, Yes. Their 70s stuff is really the stuff that most people remember the best. Of course, they did have a resurgence in the 80s. All of that material is also included in this as well. Discussing Warner's recent acquisition of their catalog, a band made a statement about the deal, explaining they hope it will allow new audiences to discover the music in the years to come. It's interesting to me just simply because we don't quite know where the future of the music business is going to lie. I think that a band like Yes, they're probably just big enough that they will kind of last for another couple of generations after the generation that first discovered them back in the 70s dies off. This is what you kind of have to understand when you're talking about selling your back catalog or buying a back catalog like this. I think if you're Warner, this is something that you have to consider. It's like, how much is this catalog really going to be worth once that generation is dead and gone. After that generation is completely gone, I think it will become worth less and less because you're just going to have contemporary bands, artists, may not even be bands, just artists in general, who will be in the public eye a lot more, of course, as time progresses. And legacy acts like Yes will become more and more obscure as time goes on. I know that's really hard for some people who are really into the band Yes to quite comprehend or understand, but it's rare that a band like this would see a major resurgence or renaissance after all the band members are deceased and all of their original following has pretty much passed away. That's going to be interesting to see, because popular music in general really hasn't seen that yet. Now, we've seen the greatest generation, what we call like the World War II generation. That generation has passed away. But what did that generation listen to a lot? The popular music that they listened to was, they listened to a lot of country, a lot of pre-rock and roll, right? Because they were kids whenever it was the 40s, early 50s. It's when they were teenagers and kids, right? So that generation, they were listening to big band music, which is pretty much completely gone. And that kind of almost proves my point in a way. But also, they didn't listen to a whole lot of rock and roll. It would have been stuff pre-rock and roll, more like American standards and classics, Nat King Cole's and things like that. Those types of artists, or Hank Williams, if you're thinking about roots music or country music, Carter Family, things like that. People who were into blues would have maybe listened to some early blues, but I mean, people also forget that those artists didn't really become household names until like the 60s, when there was a big resurgence of that kind of stuff, or at least in the early 50s, when musicologists started digging up those artists and repackaging their stuff to a broader audience. Their original stuff was only heard by a relatively tiny number of people. But maybe it will pan out for Warner. I don't know. But I think their strategy here clearly is to just start to buy these legacy artists up. Like I said, Peter Frampton, Sting, Bruce Springsteen, Bob Dylan. These are some of the artists who have already sold all their rights, and I think it's part of their long-term strategy for retirement. And it makes a lot of sense for an artist like this, especially if you're in your 80s, your 70s and 80s. I don't know that there's a lot of sense to hold on to this stuff. You probably should cash in now, because you just don't know what the future is going to hold. I know it's always a nice thought to think, oh, I'm going to hand off all of my art to my kids, who can then reap the benefits, and their my grandkids, great grandkids, whatever, can reap the benefits of my art, for years and years to come or decades to come. But that may or may not really pan out the way that you had hoped. And Yes did have some hits. And I'm not saying that their music is worthless, not at all. But what I am saying is, you have to question what this music is going to be worth into the distant future. Another artist who has recently sold out all their publishing rights was The Doors, which this is probably one that's going to be a little bit more worthwhile to the people who bought it. Primary Wave Music. They acquired the rights of guitarist Robbie Krieger and Ray Manzarek, which includes the Doors' music publishing catalog. I presume also that means that they would have gotten Robbie Krieger's solo stuff. I know he did some solo stuff also. As well as this, Primary Wave Music also acquired the rights to all of the Doors recordings, trademarks, merchandise rights, and income. However, it does not include the late Jim Morrison entities and drummer John Densmore's interests. Okay, so that's confusing. That's a bit confusing right there. So if they wanted to publish something, here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking like, okay, if you want to start doing stuff like I'm just thinking about the distant future, okay, where you maybe remaster an old recording. You set it to a pre-programmed holographic set of images that are AI generated with Jim Morrison, John Densmore, all the guys on stage, and you're wanting to send this holographic band on tour, like we've seen with some stuff in the past where they started doing holographic concerts of major artists. I can definitely see where that would be a thing, where that could make some money. But if they don't have the rights to the likeness of Jim Morrison, which would be the main likeness that would be worth the most, I don't know if they would be able to do that without partnering with whoever owns those interests, including John Dinsmore's interests. It may be a situation where if they did a holographic thing, they could just have, they could partner with Jim Morrison, because John Dinsmore is in the background anyway. They could just kind of obscure his face and not have to pay likeness rights or, whatever. I'm just thinking out loud here. It's like, how would you pull something like that off? But I think that is going to be a lot of the value in the next couple of decades of these legacy artists like this, things like AI. Maybe even stuff where AI we've seen in the past couple weeks, I talked about an AI generated song, a couple of them. One of them was from The Doors. Another one was from Nirvana. But bands like this, if they wanted to have AI generated new material, that they wanted to release, they would be able to publish that. A publishing house like this, if they owned the rights, they would be able to publish this as new Doors material, in a sense, under the Doors logo on a CD or LP or however they wanted to release it, Spotify. They would be able to do that, even though it's not exactly Doors material. But if they have the rights to the band's trademark, all the likenesses and everything, they could definitely do all kinds of stuff with AI going forward. And I think that's probably what a lot of these publishers have in mind for buying these legacy acts. They're thinking into the future, like, the next 10 or 20 years, where this stuff is going to be the norm, whether us old fogies like it or not. I believe this is where the music industry is probably headed. And a band like The Doors is a prime bit of real estate for somebody who wanted to get into something like that. Because if you could put on a Doors concert, in holographic form with AI generated everything, you could, I think you could make some money there. I think there's people who would go see that. And the thing about The Doors is that's a band I think is going to be famous long after the point at which their actual fans in their heyday have died off, right? Because they have been successful in reaching fans in different generations since then. They had a giant resurgence in the late 80s when they released like the big box set of the best of the Doors. They released that back then. That was a huge seller. I owned that even. And also you think about, the Doors, the movie, the Oliver Stone picture, stuff like that kind of made a resurgence for my generation for Doors music. So, and I plan on being alive, hopefully, for another maybe 40 years if I'm lucky. So, it'll take a while for my generation to forget about the Doors, right? So it's going to be around for a little while. And as long as there are paying audiences from my generation who are still interested in the Doors, they may go pay to see something like the holographic, Doors traveling show. Also, all the licensing stuff for movies and TV and all that stuff. Of course, they're going to get money from that. But I think possibly there's a lot to be made in the concert angle. Also in the news, I saw this Nashville guitar store has recovered stolen instruments worth thousands of dollars. Let's check out what they have to say.
Music equipment. That same day, it surfaced at a used guitar store with the suspect trying to get money for it. News 2's Megan Kernan has more about the theft and the search for the suspect.
I just left my house at like 11 a.m. to go to work, and everything was there.
Sometime after Sean Mallon left for work on Monday, his West Nashville home was broken into and ransacked. Then, Sean received a call from the Modman Guitar Shop.
He had said that a white Reverend Rocco that I'd just been in there with Friday, and he had done work previously on, called me and let me know that Gabe here at Blues Vintage said someone was up here trying to sell it.
Gabe Hernandez, the owner of Blues Vintage Guitars, says a man walked into his shop around 1 in the afternoon to sell some equipment. The man brought in 3 guitars, 3 amps, and a pedal board worth around $6,000 to $7,000.
I always ask people, you know, how much do you want for your stuff? And the first word out of his mouth was $800. And I knew right then and there too that he had no idea what he had.
As Gabe was going through the equipment once the man left, he found a receipt with Sean's name on it and called him immediately.
Oh,
And I
Nipper.
got home and
Hey,
the place
buddy.
was completely ransacked.
There's your brother.
Like stuff thrown all over, but it was primarily just the music equipment that was missing and like a handgun that the police had the serial number for.
When he got home, he called me and said, this is what's missing. And it was basically everything that this guy had brought into my shop.
Gabe contacted police once he realized everything was stolen, and shortly after, he got a threatening phone call from this man.
His exact words to me were, "You've played me." He says, and then he said, "That's
I'm
the
the
last
victim.
thing you'll ever do."
Oh,
And
wow.
he hung up.
Yeah, come
And
get
that was
somebody.
right in front of the police officers.
A
Oh,
roller
boy.
coaster of a day later, Sean stopped by Blues Vintage Guitars to thank Gabe and collect everything that was stolen from him.
What Gabe did and the fact that like these things are coming back to me is, I mean, that means the world to me.
We're just hopeful that this guy is caught at some point and taken off the streets because it's scary.
The problem is, obviously, this guy threatened him, and he knows where one guy lives, and he knows where the other guy's shop is. I wouldn't be surprised if the guy with the shop, discovered a bunch of bullet holes in his shop, one day because this stupid fucking thuggish piece of shit drove by blasting bullets through his windows. What the hell, man? Don't covet me like this, like stealing all my stuff or stealing stuff from a customer. I know you stole all this stuff and then trying to play the victim. Like, oh, you played me. Yeah, I played you. Didn't I? Piece of shit. Some people, dude. Good on this guitar store owner, man. Good looking out. His spidey sense went through the roof. He knew what was going on, and he did his best to try to return the stuff. If he was unscrupulous, he could have just bought it for $800 and turned around and quadrupled his money real quick. And some people might have done something like that. And yeah, good on this guy for not being one of those people, right? But we need people also to stand up to thugs. I've seen a lot of stuff recently in the news where like that weatherman in New York City who was beaten up on the subway because he was standing up for this old elderly gentleman on the subway who these kids, they lit his hair on fire. And he said, hey, what are you doing? Stop that. And then they came at him and they all ganged up and attacked him, but nobody came to his aid. Basically, he helped the old guy, but he got his ass whipped in the process. But we need people who, in spite of that, are willing to stand up in this world, man. And whatever happens, and we all get judged for it eventually for what we did or didn't do in this life. I firmly believe that. And I think it's important that we stand up for what's right. And this guitar store owner absolutely stood up for what's right. What's the name of this store? Blues Vintage Guitars. So if you're down there, I think this is in the Nashville area, definitely go check these guys out. Give them some of your business and reward them for being one of the good guys. Next up in the news, I saw this. This was kind of interesting to me. This family is seeking to buy back, and this is actually, this is a common theme. This is a common story in the guitar community. At least it was when I was working in a music store. People would, every now and then, they would come in or they would call and say, have you seen a guitar like this? Somebody, one of my family members sold it, in the past few years, and I'm trying to track it down, yada, yada, yada. And this happens a lot, but this family is trying to buy back this guitar that their family member sold when he was sick with cancer, and they want to get it back. So apparently he died, and this is in, where is this? This is in, I think this is near Pittsburgh. Because one of you guys watching this, it's an outside chance, but one of you might actually have this guitar. Anyway, it's a white Epiphone SG, and apparently it was sold by this guy around 2019. They don't know who bought the guitar. It was sold by Jacob Hirsch, see, 2 months before his death, he posted a poignant update on a GoFundMe page detailing the progression of the cancer, how it was impacting his life and pain suffering. He was the rhythm guitarist of a band called Fubar. And again, that's around the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania area. So anybody around the Pittsburgh area, if you have heard of the band Fubar, if you own a guitar like this, you suspect it might be the right one, contact this email address here. And I guess they'll put you in touch with who you need to talk to. But, you know, this, like I said, this sort of thing happened all the time back when I worked at a music store. I even, since working at a music store, I've had people contact me because they see that I trade a lot in used stuff. At one point, I was trading a lot in used stuff, and I would have calls from people who said, hey, have you come across something like this? And if you have, I'd like to buy it, kind of thing. You know, but it's one of those things. I totally understand the sentiment of someone wanting to have back a guitar that they had a lot of memories attached to, you know, with the person that they loved, you know. But I would just say this, that things don't hold memories. Things can spark memories, but they don't hold memories. The things that, what holds memories is your spirit. And the things that these memories are indelibly written in you. It doesn't, you know, a guitar really at the end of the day is just a trinket. It's a representation. It's a facsimile of these memories. It's not the real thing. And if you can't track down this guitar, it's not the end of the world, man. You know, you will always have those memories regardless. But, you know, it would be nice to get the thing back, and I totally understand wanting it back. I think what I would do in this situation, if you have access to the cell phone that he used, a lot of people do trading on sites like Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace. You'll want to go back through his Facebook page, try to look at all of his private messages on Facebook, if you can access those. Also look at emails that he might have sent, search emails for keywords like Epiphone, Epiphone SG, you know, stuff like that. You may actually come across the where he posted it on Craigslist. Search his emails for Craigslist. He may have posted it on Craigslist and sold it that way. Also, check his credit card statements. He may have taken it to a music store and sold it like that, and they may have paid him possibly on in a credit or something like that. You don't know. There may be a paper trail, in other words, associated with it. But that's the way I would go about trying to track it down. There will be some kind of digital trail. If you look hard enough, you will find it. So anyway, good luck to the family. Hopefully you find your loved one's guitar. But like I said, not the end of the world if you don't. Just cherish the memories and not the objects. This one's kind of interesting, and I'm going to hold this one with kid gloves because I don't know exactly what's going on, and it looks like this is an unfolding story, and it looks like some a scorned woman may be involved here, and everybody knows what it's like when you have a scorned woman coming out against you, I'm sure. The headline here says, like Moths to Flames fires their bassist for abusing the platform he was given, unquote. Like Moths to Flames has fired bassist Aaron Evans for what they claim are numerous instances where he has abused the platform he was given within the band, unquote. A complete history of the alleged abuses with text messages can be found here, ranging from multiple secret relationships to manipulation and gaslighting. Well, they don't really mention the main thing that was alleged in these secret texts, because if we go to these texts, this girl, this Rachel Smeltzer on Twitter, she alleges he's been having intimate relationships with several people. Some of them were underage at the time. Now, this is a pretty lofty thing to throw at someone. That's because that's not only criminal, but that's the type of criminal activity that could follow somebody for a long, long, long time. Pretty much, probably all their lives. He was in his 30s. He finds women on the internet and through traveling the country with his band. He uses his clout from the band in order to do this to women. At this point, I believe they are well aware of that and are doing nothing to stop it. So she's actually making allegations toward the band as well, which that's probably why they got rid of him right there. I would be willing to guess. Because this girl only has like 100 and something followers. And I'm not saying that to belittle her. I'm just saying that, you know, clearly the band don't want this to get any bigger than It already is, without them at least having appeared to have done something. He had me look for jobs in Traverse City. So basically, he was with this girl. She knew that he had a wife. His wife and he have kids together. He kept saying, he swore to me on his children's lives that he signed separation papers and they would be signing divorce papers a few months later. He told me their plans to divorce had been in the works for a long time and they were waiting for the holidays to be over before proceeding. In this post, you'll see the levels this man goes to convince women that he's genuine. You'll see that I told his sister of his actions and she disregarded everything I said, even though they are all well aware of his actions. His family is financially supporting his legal matters, even though he has yet to pay his wife child support. Instead of working to support his family, he's driving between states to meet women. Now, none of that stuff really surprises me. These are the kinds of things that you can probably expect with a lot of musicians. I'll be honest with you, ladies. I mean, if you're getting involved with a traveling musician, it's not going to be a huge surprise if they do something like this. It's kind of par for the course in a lot of ways. I'm not excusing it by any means. Don't get me wrong. I have kids and stuff too, so that's not cool. But what I am saying is it should be no surprise. But what got me here was the allegations of, well, a couple things actually strike me with this. One thing that strikes me is the fact that she knew he was married and she knew all this stuff, but kept doing it. And only at the time when he basically, I guess, broke up with her or things fell apart, does she even come out about it, But you know what they say about women scorned, man? This is the scorn of a woman right here, and she apparently has gotten him fired from his band. Again, I'm not defending the guy, especially if he was going around looking for the underage variety. That's a crime, and that's a problem, and that needs to be called out for sure. But there were no receipts given for any of that. There's nothing to back it up. There's no like names or anything like that that's given, so we don't know. It's just an accusation at this point. So I treat that for what it's worth. Just an accusation. I hate the idea of ruining somebody's life on the simple word of a scorned woman who may or may not be lying, and that's always a possibility. That does happen. But again, that's not excusing the behavior if it's real. These are the kinds of gray areas that you get into, man, if you comment on stuff like this. It's really none of my business. It's these guys' business and the business of law enforcement. But, if I'm a news show and I'm commenting on this, I definitely want to be careful about what I say and not just ruin this dude's life. If you are someone and this is one of her other posts, and this is why I get kind of the scorned woman vibe from her a little bit because of just stuff like this. I mean, maybe she's telling the truth. I'm not saying that she isn't, but this is why I kind of get that vibe, because she writes one thing and then writes another long one and then another, she just kind of goes on and on with it. If you or someone is dating Aaron Evans, they're probably fucking not. I never in my life thought I would have to make a post like this in an effort to stop this from happening again. We need to speak out about this. For the past year, I and others have endured some of the most emotionally abusive behaviors from this man. This person preys on women in vulnerable situations, manipulates them into relationships, all while pursuing several other relationships at the same time. He cheated on the wife who he told me he had separated from. He convinced me that she was the problem, and I fell for it. He ruined her life and their children's lives and my life. Now he's preying on a recently divorced woman with 3 children. And I'm sure that's not the only woman he's currently doing this to. So right there, all of this stuff is just about relationships. This isn't about like the underage thing. I mean, she threw that out kind of at the very beginning and didn't say anything else about it. And that's what I'm most interested in. It's like, I really could not care any less whether this dude cheated on his wife. That's his business. That's her business. That's the business of, that's something he's going to have to deal with the rest of his life. Explaining to his kids, what happened and all that. That's not going to be fun, but that's personal business. That has nothing to do with me. And it should have had nothing to do with this girl either. But she was the one who was with him and she knew that he was married, still technically married. So is she blameless? I don't know. You can judge that for yourself. But there's a lot of stuff you can read on here. But the part that bothered me was just the accusation, kind of the blasé accusation of, the underage thing. And this guy calls it out. Why is everything so detailed except the underage part? Where are those details? And the guy's like, hey, I kind of would like to know that part. He's saying the same thing I am. He's like, what's up with that, dude? Guy in a famous band is juggling multiple women. Shocking. Do women know they don't have to be with or stay with guys like that? So this dude, yeah, man, I'm with you 100% on this. And then you have a girl come in and say that this mindset is extremely toxic. For one, multiple women have been asked to keep their part in this out for their own privacy. For two, not everyone can just leave. I married him and had children before I realized how bad it all was. Every day I found out more. So I guess this is his wife. So, she's on the side of this Rachel chick now too, against her ex-husband and the father of her children. And this dude's like, I get all that, but cheating on your wife and abusing a minor are two completely different things. I don't doubt for a second that the guy in the famous band was sleeping with a variety of women. I'm just asking to know more about the underage aspect because that's criminal. I think, yeah, man, we need more people in the world like this dude, because it's just, look, if he did that, I'm with you. That's messed up. But if he didn't do that, and this is just some wild allegation from somebody to like get back at, because you're scorned and you want to get back at somebody, that's not cool. And then this other person comes in, hey, I'm not sure if you know this, but abusing the platform you're given to hurt people is not okay. Abuse of power to anyone will never be okay. Hurting anyone is not okay. Die on a sword, but not this one. I think he means die on a hill. Don't die on this hill. So this is a white knight, isn't it? It's a he, him. Oh, it's a he, him. I'm glad he clarified that. You notice that this guy doesn't have pronouns because he's like, yeah. Because he's actually rational, apparently. This guy's just white knighting all over the place. These are the ones you have to worry about. I'm not denigrating this guy particularly because I don't know him. But it's this type that you have to worry about, ladies. The ones that will come in and white knight and pose and posture and say and act like they're sticking up for you. Those are the ones you have to worry about screwing you over the most. The guys like this Tyler guy, he's just pointing out, hey, man, these are two different things. One of the things is absolutely criminal. The other thing is just immoral, right? It's like, I don't agree with that either. Like, he's a douchebag, but is he a criminal? No. It's two different things. So anyway, what do you guys think about this one? Tell me down in the comments. Are you a lady who's been scorned like this by a musician? Are you a musician who has treated women like this in the past and now you regret it? I'd like to hear all your stories about this kind of thing down below. Okay, now on to the biggest news of the week, probably by far. Pantera's shows at 2 German festivals have been canceled, reportedly due to Phil Anselmo's past controversies. Pantera will not be performing at Rock am Ring and Rock in the Park 2023, as announced. The event organizers have stated. So, okay. Apparently, the Green Party of Germany has gone to a lot of local city council meetings and seen to it that Pantera, and more specifically Phil Anselmo, are uninvited from these appearances, which are taking place there in Germany. And the reason they've done this is because of past things that Phil Anselmo has said. So in the past few weeks, we've had many intensive conversations with artists, our partners, and you, the festival fans. We have continued to deal with the criticism together and decided to remove the band from the program. The reason that they're removing Pantera is because of Phil Anselmo's statement back in 2016 at there was a Dimebag tribute show.
Yo, Dimebags, thanks for coming out tonight, Lucky Strike Live. It's been a pleasure having all of you here and all the awesome musicians. Ronnie James Dio, Stand Up and Shout, Cancer Foundation.
So if you missed that, he said white ... power. Okay. And he yelled it pretty loudly, and it was pretty easy to hear what he said. Now, later on, he gave an apology. He also went into further explanation on a lot of different in interviews and stuff, saying that he was being heckled throughout the show from people in the audience that were yelling at him that he was racist. This is his explanation that he gave later on in interviews, and that he basically was going over the top to say F you to those people. He was basically doing the thing. All right, you're calling me this. Well, here, let me show you what it really looks like then. Screw you kind of a thing. That was what he was saying. And he acknowledges that that was a stupid, immature way to respond and dumb thing to do. He also called it a joke, that he wasn't being serious when he did it. So here is the apology video that he released. And again, this is we're going back. It's kind of ancient history now. We're going back to 2016, which is what, six going on 7 years ago now.
Phil Anselmo here, and I'm here to basically respond to all the heat I've been getting that I deserve completely. I was at the Dime Bash, and it was extremely late at night. There was heavy-duty talk between myself and those who love Dime, and heavy emotions were flowing. Jokes were made backstage that transpired upon the stage, and it was ugly. It was uncalled for. And anyone who knows me and my true nature knows that I don't believe in any of that. I don't want to be part of any group. I'm an individual, and I am 1,000% apologetic to anyone that took offense to what I said, because you should have taken offense to what I said. And I am so sorry. And I hope you just, man, give me another chance to just give me another chance. I love all of you. And anyone who's met me, anyone who knows me knows it. I love all of you. Bless you.
Okay, so clearly you could kind of see there that, it looked like Phil had probably hit rock bottom, had to reflect, on what he said, how he came across, some of the people that he may have not necessarily offended, but hurt, who he made feel like alienated from. It's also worth noting that the band that he was playing with at the time, Down, the ones that he was on stage with in that clip, I think a couple of them were Latinos, and another one was from Iran. So it's not as if this dude is just, a xenophobe or racist against other people to the point where he won't have them in his band. I mean, I think that much is clear. Or share the stage with them. Because I think some of the other people on the bill were also black and everything else. And part of the explanation that he gave later on, too, was that they were drinking white wine backstage, and that's what he was drunk on stage. And he's blamed, the booze for it, and blamed the fact that he was drinking white wine as part of the reason he said that. Like that was what had given him the power to go on stage or something. It was, I guess he thought it was a cute joke or something. And plus he was like telling these people off. I don't know. I don't pretend to know all of that, because you can't see the whole situation either. You don't have cameras on what was going on in the crowd, and what was being yelled at him that he was taking offense to, or any of that kind of stuff. So, it looked to me like he was pretty sincere in that apology. But the problem is, no one these days seems to want to accept apologies. And it seems like the people from whom apologies are accepted versus the people whose apologies are never accepted, there's a double standard there. And I think we should really examine where that double standard is and the fault line along which that double standard lies. Because, last week, like I pointed out, Nick Cannon, well, let's just look at this. So Nick Cannon
is now apologizing after receiving criticism for using anti-Semitic language in a recent podcast episode.
So this apology was about a podcast that he was on, which was different than the one that I showed last week. So it's a completely different podcast. I believe it was pretty sure it was different thing altogether. But he apologized because of some stuff that he said that was anti-Semitic. But he never apologized to white people for calling white people. I don't even remember what it was now. That's how much I care. It's not like I give a crap. But the problem is, Nick Cannon didn't lose his Fox television show over this. He did briefly lose an MTV show, but then he got it right back only a couple months later. So they didn't stick to that. So clearly forgiveness is reserved for only some people. Forgiveness is reserved for only some people. And what is the delineation along which that forgiveness line is drawn? And I think you could probably see pretty clearly the delineation where that forgiveness line is drawn. He said he was sorry for his comments, and for what it's worth, fair enough. If you say you're sorry about something and you acknowledge it, I mean, okay. It's kind of like go forth and sin no more. If we're supposed to be Christian, I'm a Christian. I believe in forgiveness. I believe in giving people chances. How many times are you supposed to forgive your brother? 7 times? No, 7 times 7. 7 times 70, excuse me, I think is the quote. But that's my point. It's we're supposed to be a forgiving people, and that's the only way that you can really live, because we all make mistakes. We all have to grow. I think that's our sole purpose for being here, is to grow. So if we don't forgive people, that's on us. That's actually a pox on our house, not on the person who's asking forgiveness, because at that point, they're absolved, really. At the end, if they're being true, and we can't know their hearts, but if their heart is true, they're absolved. It seemed to me as what Phil was saying there in his apology, he was being true in his apology. And we can even go back to some of his lyrics. Let's look at the lyrics, a couple of the lyrics for some of the stuff on Vulgar Display of Power. Okay, this is pretty early in their career too. So here's the song called Rise off of Vulgar Display. We've got no time to lose. Your news is old news. Hate this, hate me, hate this. Right approach for the wrong. It's time to spread the word. Let the voice be heard. All of us, one of us, all of us, dominate and take the motherfucking world. What he's saying here in this song, Rise, he is saying that every creed and every kind has to get together. We have to point out these people who are trying to divide us. Make pride universal so no one gives in. Turn our backs on those who oppose. And then when confronted, we ask them the question, what's wrong with their mind? What's wrong with your mind? It's time to rise. We've lived with past mistakes, and we've lived on our own. Forgive, forget, forgive. Be a man, not a child. Look, it's clear to me, right here in this song at least, he is saying our race, our creed, none of that stuff really matters. We need to unify against a common enemy, and the common enemy are the grifters who want to drive us apart, who want to keep us at each other's throats instead of at rising against them and finally saying enough is enough. We've had enough of your lies. To me, that's pretty obvious. That's not even thinly veiled lyricism there. Here in another one, he talks about the problem in the States with race because of the ignorance of the past, burnt fires. From evolution, we've been killing each other. I figure a man should have it down to a science. No chance, not for a minute, not for a second. I won't be defensive. I'm straight out in my opinion. You better listen to a man who knows what he's saying. I've seen your side. You run and hide for the mere fact that you feel inferior. Be superior and know your interior. Pride, race, pride, prejudice. Black man, white man, no stand. I mean, same thing. He's saying this basically the same thing here. He's saying that we're hating each other and we need to stop that. He's talking about, white hoods and militants. He's calling out both sides here. He's saying, to the black community, he's saying you blame oppression and you play the role of criminals. There's so many in your community who are criminals and you let them get away with it. You don't report it. And he's also calling out this. He's calling out like the KKK here, clearly. I think it's pretty clear that this is not a racist person, that this is somebody who is trying to call out something that he sees as wrong. And here's another apology letter that he released even after the apology video. And he said, "To all this will concern, every citizen of this entire world has the unalienable right to live with dignity and respect without hate or oppression. And I mean this with all of my crushed yet guilty heart. It's common knowledge that we can choose to either learn from our mistakes or continue on a path of insensitivity and destruction. I am utterly responsible for the mistakes I've made and can only give you my word to no longer do them in the present through action, not just mere words. My bandmates are now experiencing the consequences of my behavior, and I now publicly apologize to them as well. Never in my entire lifetime would I drag them down with me, and I've privately suggested to them they move on without me. My biggest obstacles are the overindulging in the booze and blurting out spiteful, ignorant reductions of the human spirit itself. I will address these issues head on. I am repulsed by my own actions, and the self-loathing I'm going through right now is justified by the hurt I've caused. I realize we live in a society where apologies are not accepted easily, yet I long for a day when they can be, but I also understand if I am shunned till I hit the dirt. From the bottom of my heart and with all sincerity, I once again am truly sorry for the pain I've caused. With truth, love, hope, and respect, Philip H. Anselmo." And this metal injection article agrees that it seems sincere, and it's clear that he knows his actions have consequences, but it will take time to rebuild his image. And apparently, it's so damaged to some people that he's losing concerts now. Even their Vienna show, which isn't in Germany, has now canceled them. And I suspect there's probably going to be a whole piling on now across Europe, because if one does it, if one virtue signals and the other ones don't, then they start to look bad, right? This is the way that they think. It's like, oh, well, they did it, and if we don't do it, we don't follow suit, then it makes us look like we're on board with what he said. And so this is what's going to end up happening probably across Europe. And how many times do you not forgive somebody? How many times, like I said, it's been 6 years, going on 7 years since he did this and apologized. How long do you hold someone's feet against the fire for something that they've done, or said? I mean, actually, I think it's really stupid, but I do kind of buy his explanation. I know what it's like to be called a racist and not be one. I know what it's like. It doesn't feel good. It's not a good feeling, to know that this is absolutely untrue, these things that somebody's saying about you, and you want to give them the finger somehow, and this is the way he chose to give them the finger, which is pretty dumb. And he acknowledges it's dumb. So, I like I said, I am a Christian. I wasn't always one. I was one as a kid, and for a long, long time, I was an agnostic person. I just basically said the only thing defensible I can say about this screwed up universe is that I know nothing whatsoever, and that was kind of my stance on philosophical questions for a long time, because, hey, that's the easy way out, right? I don't have to commit to anything. It's kind of a relativistic, it's moral relativism in a sense, but it wasn't like I gave up morality. It's just I was more of a relativistic mind, because I realized perceptions are different among different groups of people and all that stuff. But, since then I've found my way back to the Christianity of my youth. I do feel like I want to be a better Christian. I want to be a better person. I do want to forgive people. I want people of all creeds, colors, and everything to live together in peace and harmony. And I think, the golden rule is the way to that, and Jesus was the one who taught us that the loudest. So that's where I am. That's my personal explanation there. But people like Phil, I think, are just probably, because he's so in the public eye, it's going to be hard for him, I think, to do big shows with a band like Pantera. Why was it okay that he went through all of South America and Mexico with no problem? And I thought about this too at first. I wondered to myself, why did they start in Mexico City and do South America first? I was like, that's odd. That's unusual. I was like, but it's kind of cool. It's like nobody ever really does that. Like a big band, they hardly ever launch tours in South America and Central America. I thought that was kind of cool. But I did wonder why they were doing that. And now I think it's apparent, because if they had started the tour in large U.S. cities or large European cities, this is what would have happened from the very beginning, and then they may have done no shows. But I think they rightfully saw that people in Central and South America are pretty forgiving, and they, I think honestly that's because they are largely still Christian in a lot of these countries. They're very, very heavily so, in fact. And that's becoming less and less true in places like Germany. We've talked about all that in the past too. Some of the reasons why. But here, the website, philanselmo.com. This is what comes up now. This domain name will be up for auction soon. Check back for details. Thank you. So apparently Phil is now going to auction off his own personal website. He's just like, I guess he thinks my name is Mud. How fucking sad, dude. And again, I'm not defending what he did or what he said that one time. I'm sure he may have said other things too. But the point is, he did apologize. I think his apology was heartfelt. It certainly seemed that way. He did take a while off to from activities, to kind of get himself back together. I think he is back together. It seems like he's more sober now than he's ever been. He was, putting on some hella shows, man. And it's kind of sad that this starts happening. And this is the way Pantera really ends. Sad way to go out for a classic band like this. And for what, But see, this is what I was talking about with the Nick Cannon thing. It's like there's a bit of a double standard, Nick Cannon never apologized to white people. He was never even canceled for that, for what he said about white people. Or excuse me, I think he said non-melanated. But that's white people. He never apologized for that. Nobody ever I guess we never really asked him to hard enough or something. I don't know. But he wasn't canceled for it. I don't think he had any television shows canceled or anything like that. And he was even rehired for the stuff that he said about Jews after he apologized. So, which is fine. I think that's probably the right way to do it. But you have to be consistent with it. Don't just hold somebody accountable if they denigrate black people or Jews. Why aren't you holding people accountable when they openly are seethingly hating and racist against white people? That's not fair. Why is that okay? That's not okay. And nobody ever asked him to apologize for that, really. I honestly, to me, I don't care. It's like he could say what he wants. I just kind of whatever. I could brush it off. But it's not right, because if that takes hold, if that viewpoint starts to take hold and becomes just pernicious and all-encompassing, then it very quickly reaches a tipping point where not just is it okay to start denigrating a group of people, but then it starts becoming okay to start shooting, bashing, hitting, kicking, stabbing this group of people, or even taking their jobs, taking their families, stealing their kids. You think all these things can't happen, but they have happened in the past many, many times in humanity. We all have the same human nature. You think this can't happen in the first world? We just had a 3-year span where we had lockdowns, something I never thought we would ever have in a free country, and we did. And I don't think any of you guys would have ever thought that we would have had something like that either, but we did. Stuff can happen, man. Stuff can happen, and it's not cool to allow people to just spread racist stuff like this without having to apologize. So I agree with making him apologize. You know, he should have had to apologize for something like that. That's just that's a dumbass thing to say, to scream that in front of an audience of people, and to do that, you know, even as a joke. It's not cool. I mean, I think I understand why he did it, but it's still not cool. But to hold him accountable and not hold other people accountable when they do the exact same thing in the opposite direction isn't cool. So there's a double standard. That part needs to stop. But it's just, look, here's the thing. I accept Phil Anselmo's apology. I love Pantera. Last week I did if you didn't see it, I did a cover of Mouth for War with some guys, some Hispanic guys. I believe all three of them are. So I mean, I don't care. I don't care about those dudes' race, man. They're kick-ass players, you know. And I think they don't care about mine either. I think they just thought it was cool that I wanted to work with them and do something, you know. But that's where we all need to get to, man. We need to forgive each other and be better overall. So anyway, that will do it for the news. All right, guys, so I probably rambled on long enough this week. Again, if you have not subscribed to or followed my Locals account, you can do that. I'll put a link down below. You can follow my Locals account without actually becoming a member. You won't be able to comment, but you will be able to see a lot of the stuff that's over there and follow it. But if you do want to become a member, I certainly appreciate it. There are a couple different options for membership, and it helps fund this channel, and it helps keep these episodes going. So if you would, please go check me out at locals.com. And for now, we will see y'all later.